Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger. My friends, Janet Cage is now live for Mortal Kombat 1. And I've been playing around with her for a few hours, and I just want to give you some first thoughts and first impressions on the character here on day one. Overall, I gotta say, Janet is pretty cool. So the thing about Janet is what I really like about all the DLC Kameo characters so far is they take the existing framework of, you're a Kameo, you can do various moves, Janet does the split punch, as you would expect of a Cage, sure, but then they changed things up. So Tremor was effectively a stance Kameo, and Chameleon was exceptionally powerful, but with a randomized element on a timer, so you didn't always have full control over what was going on, or you had to set it up so you could go into it, right? You couldn't just do everything you wanted on demand. And now, what's different about Janet is she's effectively a puppet character. So we already have Kenshi and Sento, yes, but now everybody can have their own personal puppet, right? You can control Janet just as much as anybody else. So if you want her just to go to town, it's totally a thing you could do. And she has her own full special moveset as well. But that's kind of getting into it here. So let's start with the basics, right? So what does Janet offer on paper? One, Janet doesn't give or take away any health. So whatever your base health is, it's going to be that way. So not a negative 50 health character or anything like that. That's cool. I guess just to start here, the base call is indeed the classic Cage Nut Punch. And it works like you think it would, in that if you catch someone mid-air, it will indeed restand them. Also, just like say MK11 Cassie, depending on where you hit them will give you more advantage. So if they're sort of low to the ground when they hit, here you can see frame advantage is 34, right? But if we hit them while they're higher up, then all of a sudden frame advantage is 40, right? So hitting them higher and higher up, while still actually connecting and not whiffing, right? But hitting them higher up means more and more and more frame advantage, meaning more and more dirty things you can set up ahead of time. Also, just as a summon call, it is -6, so it's safe-ish, basically. So it's going to be really good just for, like, resetting combos. Like, say I catch you real quick in the corner, right? And then all of a sudden, with, the right combo, and I'm plus 30, like, even if it's low to the ground, I'm still going to be 30 plus, right? And I'm in your face while you're restanded, you're jailed into your animation, and all of a sudden, guess high or low for potentially the game. Like, okay, you're jailed here. Oh, did you guess overhead? If you didn't guess overhead, that could be game over right there, right? So anything that jails in that long kind of animation is always going to be super valuable. And of course, there's a lot more than just that. We got a very strong defensive property in Mime time, where she'll basically be a personal shield for you. And you can hold it and she'll just kind of just stay there for the duration until she's effectively used up. And when she's used up, yoink. One of the big things is, yes, obviously, she's a shield. And eventually you can knock her out of it, right? But it takes a couple hits. Like, it's not nothing. It takes a few hits. And also, she's an impassable obstacle. So you can have her up and say you're playing like a Reiko or something, right? And you want to just throw ninja stars like crazy. Like, that's a very real thing, because obviously the projectiles are still the projectiles. And if I'm trying to, like, get in through, she's literally blocking my way. Like, you can zone me out and I cannot get in other than trying to hit her, which, has its own set of problems. So I can't exactly hit her so good when I'm getting shurikened out to death, right? So being able to control a big part of the screen is actually, like, massive. There's nothing really like it, right? And, like, if she could only do that, that would be really good by itself, but there's so much more to go. She also has the Easy Bake Oven combo extender, right? Where she'll do a jump. So you do whatever combo, and she'll just do this, come in. She has close and far versions, just FYI. Back and assist and forward assist, it just changes the angle. But the beauty is, specifically, you can call it multiple times. So right there, that was 2 times. That's 3 times. And it doesn't take any more gauge. It doesn't cost you anything. It's just purely a skill/timing based mechanic. So if you enter the input again right before it hits, she'll glow green. and then do an additional follow-up. So you can do multiple follow-ups and keep them in the air the whole time. And let me tell you, this can be useful in a lot of ways, right? Like anything where, like, you know, a Sub-Zero freeze or a Cyrax net that lets you set up shop would be useful, but those are summon calls. This is an ambush call, so you can do this whenever. So say we go for like standard Shao launcher stuff, right? What if we sass it up a little bit here, and while Janet's doing some of the heavy lifting as an ambush, we spice it up here with an axe buff. So as you can see here, like, this is not terribly a hard sell. Like, this is very doable, right? So if I can do something basic like that, you know, just thought of it off the top of my head, imagine what you can do with more complex characters, right? The fact that she just holds the enemy in place long enough with the ambush call, more than like, you know, a Sonya square wave or whatever. And it can be even all the longer yet, depending on your execution, right? Just holding the enemy in place, hold them in place, hold them in place, and then set up whatever you need to set up. Like, it's more than just the basic ambush call combo extender. You can get a lot more off it. This is going to be one of those things where we're going to have to play around with the potential, but the potential is there. So we got all this cool stuff. That's great. Also, Janet's throw, by the way, is 140 damage throw. That makes it very high, so I'm a real big fan of that. But obviously, like, the puppet call is the main thing. Like, you control Janet just like you control yourself, right? You can move forward or backwards. She can attack. She can do stuff. She even has her own suite of special moves, including stuff like a shadow kick, including stuff like the old classic force balls. Like, she's a full puppet character, and that's really, really cool. The one thing I'll say out of the gate, and I hope they change this. So you can control her while you're blocking, as you would expect, right? So she can do her thing while you're blocking, sure. One thing though, you can control her moving forward or backwards while you're blocking, but if you're crouch blocking, she cannot move. So this is not like, say, like Eddie in Guilty Gear. Zato, while Zato's crouching, you could control Eddie around. You cannot control Janet with like down back or down forward while you're crouching, and I hope they change that. But yeah, so this is just really cool. Like, her basic attacks, like if you jam on like 1, she'll do like Mortal Kombat 1, 2, 3 style low punches. If you jam on 2, she'll do high punches. If you jam on 3, she'll do a low kick. If you jam on 4, she'll do a high kick, right? So she's playing like classic Mortal Kombat. And that includes, well, just like you, the player, but that does include things like a sweep. Do a classic sweep. We'll do a classic uppercut, right? So has the core Mortal Kombat moveset, but just also on top of that, stuff like the special moves. Although, one special one, forward and forward. That's like kind of like a launching high kick. So that's not classic MK2 Johnny. That one's new. Also, as a puppet, when you're burning some of the bigger moves to take some of your bar, right? If you hold R1 and hit L2, we'll do the splits and it'll actually rebuild some of her meter, right? So if you manage this correctly, you can keep her ongoing for a long time. And this is where some of the fun starts. Let me show you some of the things I've already figured out with the character. So Reiko set the block here, and he's going to do his armored reversal whenever there's going to be any gap in, you know, offense, right? So as soon as there's a gap, he's going to reverse out. Let me tell you, brother, you can make it with Janet that there ain't going to be no gaps. So calling Janet is indeed a summon call, right? So what I'm going to do like a basic B&B combo, and instead of the last little bit, I'll drop it on purpose and do my summon call to have Janet out in front. So basic combo, nothing fancy here. Like, we're just kind of going for the Shao standard. And instead of the Ender, I'm just going to go for the jab and call Janet, and we're just both directly in front of your face on your wake up. And you better believe, as my advantage frames. So now, once again here, whenever there's a gap, Reiko is going to shoot in with an armored move. Let's see if we can give him anything to work with here. So yeah, you can kind of just keep it going. If you have the right strings, you have the right character, you understand the pressure, it can just go and go and go, and it all jails true block strings. If you block the first part, even if it's a high, it's all going to be guaranteed. If you let go of block, even if you crouch, you're going to get hit by the next move, and, well, then you're going to get comboed out and you're going to die, right? So the pressure is very, very real. However, it's very execution dependent. like what I'm doing there was not exactly the easiest, especially if you're not used to the concept of puppets, right? So Janet's called, sure, but I'm holding R1 specifically to make sure Janet's not doing anything, because normally if I'm hitting my buttons, Janet will hit like whatever attack she's going to do as well, right? So I have to hold R1 until I'm not holding R1, let her do a move, then hold R1 again till I'm not doing a move, then, you know, let her do her thing again, so on and so forth. And she has to be at the right positioning. I'll tell you right now, if Janet does her moves and the opponent is crouch blocking specifically, she'll get pushed out just a little bit. So that scenario I showed you won't work exactly, well, except for where it will. It's just that at some point during your combo, you're going to have her manually take a step forward, because you can still control her going and forward and backwards, right? So that's where the real execution hardness is going to lie. And there's probably going to be some really messed up scenarios. Like that whole thing I showed you with Shao, if you don't know enough to crouch block during that, like you're going to lose a gigantic part of your life and chip, and there's no way out. And if you try to get out in any way, shape, or form, the rest is just going to hit you as a natural combo, right? So the pressure can be super real, but you're going to have very, very fast fingers. Because not only are you going to be managing, you know, holding the stance cancel button to make sure she's not doing anything, to let her occasionally attack, then she'll have to occasionally move. And then if you get really good at it, then you're going to also occasionally have her do the splits and rebuild her gauge so you can keep the offense going, right? Right here, this is day one. Like, day one's not even over yet. I'm not ready to show you that kind of stuff. That's too hard for me right now. But you better believe someone will get there at some point, right? That's the power of puppet characters in fighting games. And when someone gets there and they're managing the pressure nonstop, and then they're like calling Janet in, she's doing taunts and stuff while doing it to rebuild her gauge to keep the pressure going, like it's gonna be absolutely bananas. So Janet is something else, right? Once again, it's going to take a really strong player to unlock her full potential, but even the constituent parts are really good. We got Nut Punch. Nut Punch restands on any combo. That's easy pressure, always a valuable trait. She has the ambush calls for juggles, right? And you can do it multiple times to hold people longer in the air. That normally you'd have to have a summon call like a Sub-Zero or Cyrax do. She can just do it as an ambush. That's great. She has the very odd Mime wall, which will tank hits for you. And this is great for like Reiko and Quan Chi, characters that like want you to be held in place, right? Like they want to zone you. This literally is like, nah, man, you got to get past the wall before you can even deal with my zoning. So that's going to be really, really strong. And then, of course, there are all the puppet shenanigans. Like what I showed you in this video is like literally the bare minimum. The pressure and all that, bare minimum. Trust me, someone's going to break it wide open and it's going to be, well, downright broken probably. That's generally how puppet characters work. It's either feast or famine. One day you're on top of the world as Zeta 1, and then you have to get nerfed into the ground and never be playable ever again. That's how it is in Guilty Gear Strive. So Janet Cage is cool, y'all, is what I'm trying to say. Play around with her, see what you can find, because there's going to be a lot of really strong things. This is not a weak cameo, I'll say that right now, but it is a complex one. Just like Tremor, just like Chameleon, they are going out of the way to like make hard cameos that reward you putting effort into them. A lot more than just like, you know, pick striker, toss grenades, go burr, right? So these are some of the most interesting things about Mortal Kombat 1 from a gameplay perspective, and I really like what they're doing. Like, you know, Peacemaker, God bless him, is a very simple character, and yet they put out Janet next thing, and she's ultra complex, and I like the little back and forth they're kind of doing with that. But that said, that's my thoughts right now. Thumbs up. Really excited to see what people are going to do with her in the future. And for now, well, I guess that's the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some Mortal Kombat.